We're following breaking news out of Harford County. 4 people shot near Joppatown Plaza. The latest details on that shooting.
And violent juvenile crime being seen across the state. Why prosecutors say laws on the books are keeping them from doing their jobs. And as the juvenile crime crisis continues, we're taking a look at the Department of Juvenile Services and the role it's playing.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
I had neighbors said they heard the gunshots, but it was really quick and it was over with.
Good evening, I'm Maxine Stryker.
And I'm Vincent Hill. We begin tonight with breaking news. 4 people are dead, including the alleged shooter, after a shooting in Harford County. Now, it happened on Trimble Road in Joppa around 11:15 this morning. The Harford County Sheriff's Office has not called it a domestic situation, and what led up to it is still unknown.
I was advising number 1 male with a pistol heard 7 shots.
Just after 11:15 Saturday morning, the Harford County Sheriff's Office responding to an active shooter at an apartment complex on Trimble Road in Joppa.
Tall black male, possible white shirt, skinnier build, armed with a black handgun.
When deputies arrived, they found multiple deceased people in an upstairs apartment.
It's not usual around here. It's not something that normally happens.
Harford County Sheriff Jeff Gaylor not providing many details, but saying the shooting appears to have been targeted.
And it does not appear that the suspect made forced entry into that apartment. We believe that he was led into the apartment.
As far as what could have led up to it,
we do not have a motive.
In all, 4 people are dead, including the alleged shooter and a juvenile.
We believe the suspect is among the deceased.
Jerry Henderson lives just feet away from where those shots rang out and is stunned such a young life was taken just 2 days before the first day of school.
It's saddening. It really is. I can't even really put it through my head yet.
And we're also following breaking news out of West Baltimore, where a fatal shooting prompted a SWAT team response. Police say at around 11 this morning, officers responded to reports of a shooting on Ashburton Street. Officers found a man with multiple gunshot wounds. Medics tried to save the man's life, but he was pronounced dead at the scene. Police were told a man was seen fleeing the scene and running into a home a couple of blocks away. SWAT was called to that home, but police say they're still looking for a suspect.
Fox 45 News continues to demand answers and solutions for the ongoing juvenile crime crisis being seen not only in Baltimore City, but in counties across the state. In the last few months alone, carjackings and car thefts will die and more children will fall prey to the realities and consequences of bad legislation, saying, "I fear that lawmakers will not hold a special session because doing so could be perceived as an admission that they got it wrong." It's clear the situation in Baltimore County isn't isolated, as statewide leaders.
We're living in a time where, unfortunately, legislators, lawmakers, have decided that it's better to support the lawbreakers rather than those who are enforcing the law.
Are noticing a disturbing trend among juveniles and aren't keeping quiet about it any longer.
They know that, nothing's really going to happen to them if they keep their crime in a certain limit of types of crime.
Well, if you feel you're not being heard, we want you to contact your lawmakers. We have their phone numbers and email addresses listed right there on your screen. To reach House Speaker Adrian Jones, you can call 410-841-3800. For Senate President Bill Ferguson, the number is 410-841-3600. If you want to connect with other elected leaders who represent you, our website makes it easy. Just go to foxbaltimore.com. You can click the menu at the top left of your screen and there select lawmakers. You can enter your home address to pull up your elected official at the local, state, or federal level. And that brings us now to our question of the day. Do you think the General Assembly is responsible for the surge in violent juvenile crime? So far, 100% of you who voted say yes. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
The Department of Juvenile Services is providing different activities for kids this summer to keep them engaged and out of trouble. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost is in St. Mary's County, where the kids hit the trail.
We just got done biking more than 15 miles with some kids under supervision from the Department of Juvenile Services. Secretary Vincent Schiraldi also came along for the ride. It's all part of what's called the Safe Summer Plan. These kids and law enforcement ride together to really build some new relationships.
Kids that might be on probation or find themselves in a high-risk situation, it gives us an opportunity to spend time together, humanizes the people that are typically seen as adversarial, and see the advocacy that they want to bring to these kids.
We can't show the faces of the kids under supervision, but we did talk with JT, who's from Southern Maryland, and he said these bike rides this summer have opened his eyes to new opportunities.
I'm on probation, but I'm about to get out. It's my first time and my last time. If I shouldn't be on probation, then I shouldn't meet you guys, you know?
I spoke with Secretary Schiraldi about the current state of DJS and what's going on with the monitoring situation with kids wearing ankle bracelets. We'll have what he says about that, including what's changing right now, and a story Sunday night. In St. Mary's County, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And coming up tonight at 10:30, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor will be taking a closer look at the Department of Juvenile Service home monitoring system and its connection to what happened during the Brooklyn Day mass shooting.
Right now, you're taking a live look over Towson and the Inner Harbor. It was a hot start to the weekend today, but it's looking like things may start to cool down. Let's check in with meteorologist Jasmine Lomax for a first check of the forecast.
Yeah, Maxine, that's right. We hit a high of 94 in Baltimore, and that's well above average for this time of year. Even now, it's still very warm across many parts of the state. Those temperatures are in the 70s and in the 80s. It's been steamy, so you can add a few degrees to factor in that humidity. Tomorrow, you'll notice a big change in the temperatures. Mid-80s will stay mostly dry, but then the showers come on Monday and Tuesday. High temperatures in the low to mid-80s, keeping us close to average for this time of year. Then as we move forward, we're talking drier weather as we finish out and head into the weekend. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at the timing of that rain and what to expect as the school year begins in my Weather Authority forecast. Back to you.
All right, Jasmine, thank you. You can access the latest information when severe weather hits right on your cell phone. Download the Fox 45 weather app. Just search for WBFF in your app store.
Coming up, Monday marks 60 years since Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech. How people came together in D.C. today to honor that anniversary.
And another big day Monday. Kids across the state are getting ready to head back to school. Fox 45 speaks to an expert on tips to make sure students attend class beyond the first day.
But first, all-star closer Felix Bautista has been placed on the injured list after leaving last night's game. How much time he's expected to miss? Coming up next on Sports Unlimited.
Today, Birdland held its breath, waiting for an update on all-star closer Felix Bautista, who left Friday night's game with arm discomfort. General Manager Mike Elias making the announcement that Bautista has a right UCL injury, and he's headed to the 15-day IL. Bautista has been one of the best, if not the best closer in all of baseball. The 33 saves and 1.48 ERA, they're proof. With Bautista set to miss time, the O's have called up top pitching prospect DL Hall, who pitched tonight. As a result, or as of right now, rather, Mike Elias not sure when Bautista will be back.
He's going on the IL. We don't have a plan beyond that. We have not firmed up any type of timetable or anything of those nature. So anyone can go on Google and find the spectrum of outcomes or possibilities that might entail, and I really am not informed or confident enough yet at this point to add that if somebody's interested.
Well, still ahead, how the O's fared in their first game without Felix, plus highlights from the Ravens' preseason finale against the Bucs when Sports Unlimited returns.
Monday will mark 60 years since Martin Luther King Jr. led the March on Washington and delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, creating a landmark moment in the civil rights movement.
And today, crowds in the thousands came from all across the country to take part in marking this milestone. Sam Ford from our Sinclair sister station in D.C. has the story.
60 years ago, over 200,000 people came to the Lincoln Memorial. They heard about Martin Luther King's dream, and within 2 years, both the civil rights and voting rights bills were law. 60 years later, the commemorative march nowhere near that size, but progress?
Blacks are in positions of power more now than at any time in the history of this nation.
Regress, yes, says Martin Luther King III.
Instead of moving forward, it feels as if we're moving backward.
Affirmative action outlawed in college admissions by the Supreme Court, which also overturned parts of the Voting Rights Act.
Yes, we have more young people who are not living in poverty, and we have people stripping their history out of schools.
It brought out many groups, Howard University students who would have been grandchildren of the Howard students of 60 years ago.
Because even though we didn't live through it, the effects of it have brought us to where we are now. We wouldn't be able to do what we can do. We wouldn't be able to have what we have.
Children and grands of old friends like the Jewish Anti-Defamation League, back again 60 years later.
We all sink and swim together. So ADL organized all around the country to bring our supporters here to commemorate and continue the battle for civil rights.
60 years later.
The march got underway, this time from the Lincoln Memorial to the National Memorial in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King several blocks away. Such a memorial would have been inconceivable in 1963, and yet the struggle continues.
As students in Baltimore City head back to school on Monday, there are some groups working to make sure that students attend class beyond the first day. This morning, Fox 45's Taylor Stewart spoke with Dr. Michael Gary, whose group Concentric Educational Solutions works to combat absenteeism. He says in his discussions with families, a lot of same reasons for missing school pop up.
One, there's still a lot of fear around COVID that exists out there. When we're talking to students and families, we see the barriers that they're experiencing. Food insecurity, transportation issues is one that we don't talk about enough. When you think about students who may have to travel 5 miles by public transportation and may be a barrier because of the length of time that it takes for them to get to school.
Well, Dr. Gary says the best way to ensure students show up to class is to get parents involved in their education. He says a strong partnership between the school and the parents can help with identifying warning signs that a child is struggling.
All right, parents, it's the final weekend before most Maryland students in our area head back to school. More than 360,000 kids from Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Harford County, Howard County, and Anne Arundel County all start class on Monday.
FOX45 wants to see your first day of school pictures to send us what your kids did to celebrate heading back to school or what they wore for their first day. You can scan that QR code right there on their screen. You can also head to the FOX45 News app and click Chime In, or head to foxbaltimore.com/chime in. And make sure you're watching Fox 45 Morning News for team coverage before the bell rings on the first day of school. Fox 45 News' Shannon Lilly will be live addressing the big concerns within Baltimore City schools. Olivia Dance will be outside Baltimore County schools as kids start arriving for the first day. Taylor Stewart will be heading to Harford County with the fun happening there. And Justin Chambers will have that all-important bus stop forecast.
The entertainment industry losing an icon. Come on down. Fox 45 looks back on Bob Barker's career.
Renewed calls tonight for Governor Moore to hold a special session on the juvenile crime crisis. Fox 45 is questioning why some lawmakers are hesitant to act.
And Fox 45 News continues our investigation into the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services, why one defense attorney says their current practices aren't acceptable.
Well, some sad news in the entertainment industry. Bob Barker, the host of The Price is Right and a beloved fixture on television for more than 30 years, has passed away. Fox 45 is taking a look back on Barker's remarkable career.
Bob Barker!
When it comes to game show hosts, Bob Barker was one of the most beloved for 35 years. He was the man with the mic and the money on The Price is Right. Barker described his own winning television career as unexpected. He spent much of his childhood on a Native American reservation in South Dakota. His family, part of the Sioux tribe, serving in the military during World War II, brought Barker to new places.
I had never been up in an airplane, and I had never seen the ocean, and I had not thought about landing an airplane on a carrier.
After the war, Barker landed radio jobs and married his high school sweetheart before breaking into television.
It's time to play Truth or Consequences.
Barker's run on Truth or Consequences lasted 18 years.
That's beautiful.
His hosting style catching the attention of game show producer Mark Goodson.
He saw me working on Truth or Consequences, and he liked my work. And he told me that he would like to have me do the new Price is Right, they called it.
He said 2. It's 2. There he goes.
The mix of savvy shopper guessing games and big prizes have made The Price is Right America's longest running game show and Barker its most memorable ringleader.
Being on that stage, reaching out and gathering those folks in and making this thing work, getting up, build them up as quickly as possible to a pitch that is just fun.
Offstage, Barker faced some battles. In 1981, he lost his wife of 36 years to lung cancer. He faced struggles of his own, including a stroke and sexual harassment case brought by a female employee of The Price is Right. It was eventually dismissed, but tarnished Barker's image for some time. Through it all, he remained focused on his work and philanthropic efforts, signing off each show with this tagline:
Help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered.
Barker, a major advocate for animal well-being, donated millions towards animal rescue and rights groups.
If I'm remembered at all in the years to come, they'll refer to me as that old man who was always talking about spay and neuter.
Barker spent his career giving away money, but reflected on his own good fortune in retirement.
I'm blessed. I had the opportunity to have fun and just look forward to going to work for half a century.
Bob Barker was 99 years old. Well, plenty of stars have been paying tribute to Barker throughout the day on social media. Drew Carey weighing in here saying, very sad day for the Price is Right family and animal lovers all over the world. He says there hasn't been a day on set that I didn't think of Bob Barker and thank him. I will carry his memory in my heart forever. And Adam Sandler also weighing in. He says, the man, the myth, the best, such a sweet, funny guy to hang out with. Loved talking to him, laughing with him. Loved him kicking the crap out of me. He will be missed by everyone I know. Heartbreaking day. Love to Bob always and his family. Thanks for all you gave us. A nice picture of them there.
A true legend for sure. Coming up, more questions tonight for the Department of Juvenile Services. Why one attorney says the consequences for violations aren't enough.
And Baltimore's Charm City Live Festival returns for its second year. What big names took to the stage this year?
And who let the dogs out? It's National Dog Day at the Rotunda. We'll show you about it coming up.
And we're getting ready for a nice and quiet night as temperatures go from the 80s to the 70s. You'll notice a big change in temperatures tomorrow. I'll let you know how low the numbers will be in my Weather Authority forecast.
Continuing coverage now on the juvenile crime crisis. Tonight, there's renewed calls for Governor Moore to hold a special session following a major rise in car thefts across the city, spreading into surrounding counties. Fox 45's Taylor Stewart is questioning why some lawmakers seem hesitant to act.
The latest push for lawmakers to call a special session on juvenile crime laws comes amid a staggering uptick in car thefts. This week in Northeast Baltimore, police arrested 3 teenagers for allegedly firing shots in the direction of police while driving away in a stolen car. Both teens, according to police, have previous auto theft charges. And in Baltimore County, an 11-year-old was arrested in connection to over a dozen carjackings. The preteen is too young to be charged under the juvenile restoration law.
What we're realizing when we talk to young people is that young people, the juveniles, know there's nothing that we can do.
As juvenile crime rises, so do the number of state prosecutors voicing frustration with current laws. So what is the holdup for lawmakers?
I think they're dragging their feet for a couple reasons. First, I don't know if they have the magic solution yet to figure out the problem. You know, it's all well and good to say, let's have a special session and fix this. But I don't think anyone has one clear idea to fix the problem.
Certainly not one both sides can agree on. Fox 45 News sent several questions to Governor Westmore's office about the rise in juvenile crime. In response, the governor says he too sees the need for real measures of accountability. But we also asked why the governor thinks Maryland should wait for the General Assembly to return in January for those changes to be made.
The thing is, the governor needs to show a strong sense of urgency on this if he's thinking long-term about his political career. And the thing is, this is something that touches on a lot of people. The governor has been in the juvenile justice system. He could speak to this very well and very clearly.
Short of a special session, political analyst John Dede says lawmakers will convene in the coming weeks to talk about tackling the juvenile crime crisis.
Now, in September, they're having public hearings on this thing to discuss it. And that's kind of like a lollipop in a kid's mouth, which is all well and good. It placates people. But the public hearing thing needs to be plural. They need to have several of them, to have different voices from across the state to deal with this problem, especially in the city of Baltimore.
Dede, however, doesn't anticipate any changes to the state's juvenile justice laws until maybe next year during the 2024 session. Taylor Stewart, Fox 45 News.
And these developments come as Fox 45 continues to question the Department of Juvenile Services about its role in helping kids turn their lives around. Now, some say the agency isn't doing enough. Rebecca Pryor looks into why some kids under supervision are still getting into trouble.
On the day of Baltimore City's largest mass shooting, it appears accused gunman, 18-year-old Tristan Jackson, may have broken the law before shots were even fired. Charging documents revealing police placing Jackson at the Brooklyn Day scene with GPS coordinates pulled from a DJS ankle monitor he was wearing at the time. The monitor placed on Jackson back in February when he was just 17 years old after bringing a loaded gun to Monroe High School. DJS refusing to release the terms of Jackson's monitoring agreement due to confidentiality laws. But those familiar with the system say he was likely in violation of his home detention, and he's not the only teen known to do so.
They're not complying with the terms that have been imposed, and they will continue to think that their actions are just not all that serious.
DJS says statewide, more than 100 youth are on GPS monitors, but just 14 DJS staff are assigned to supervise them.
It has to be a 24-hour monitoring, 7 days a week. They have to respond if the child is absent or not compliant with the terms of GPS and home detention. There is a lot of follow-up that goes along with monitoring them.
Do you think 14 people is enough to do all of that?
Probably not.
According to defense attorney Roya Hanna, not only does DJS staffing fall short, so do the consequences being issued. DJS telling Fox 45 when a juvenile breaks their GPS monitoring conditions, penalties range from, quote, a discussion with the youth to family conferencing to alerting the court. DJS adding that the court is the only entity that can put youth back into detention.
Then the child knows they can go out, they can do whatever they want, behave any kind of way, and maybe they'll get a stern talking to for 10 or 15 minutes. That's not going to teach them anything.
Fox 45 sending questions to DJS asking, what causes a case to be referred back to court? And how often do the courts issue additional consequences? So far, no response.
The juvenile system was designed for juvenile crimes. Graffiti, little pot smoking, maybe some shoplifting. That's what it was designed for. But our kids are not at that level.
Hannah arguing with kids today committing robberies, carjackings, and even murder. Major crimes should be met with major repercussions, no matter the age.
They need to have consequences. That is how people learn to live in a law-abiding society, is knowing where the boundaries are and that those boundaries will be enforced.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
DJS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi sat down with Fox 45 News back in May. He says the department has its faults, but there are other factors contributing to the juvenile violence issue.
Yeah, so supervision all by itself, by a government-funded probation officer or community supervisor, that's just this much of the problem. We really have to engage the rest of the people in their community. You got to get in there with those kids and interrupt that flow and put them on a path to success.
Governor Moore has ordered a top-to-bottom review of the department, but those results have not been announced.
Political commentator Armstrong Williams hosted a town hall discussion on juvenile justice. Panelists brought up their concerns with Maryland's laws, especially the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which prevents children 13 and younger from being charged with most crimes, and the Child Interrogation Act, which prohibits police from questioning children.
You had a movement to say, hey, it's mass incarceration, so let's reform our criminal justice system. You call it criminal justice reform. And you create laws that create a magnet of crime. And that's what Kimberly was talking about. If you're not questioning children, the people who have evil intentions are going to use those children to hide behind and to get away with more crime.